Well, I'm so glad that you're here with us, and please tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've worked with Stanley Krippner, and you've worked with a lot with dream telepathy and all sorts of incredible things.
Yeah. As I'm sure you can attest from our phone call, there are a lot of different things I could talk about. So thank you for asking me to talk about this.
Absolutely.
But for your question about my background that will be useful to this presentation, I'll just say that I started dream working at the age of 4 with my psychologist father, who was using primarily Kilton Stewart's Sonoy dream theory and to help me work through nightmares and so forth. So I started at a very young age. And then my next guide in dream work was Eduardo Duran, who maybe some of you there at Sofia may have met or seen him speak there. An Apache Pueblo shaman, a Jungian psychotherapist, wonderful author. And then at age 19, my next dream mentor was Clara Stewart Flagg, the widow of Kilton Stewart, which was a very full circle type of experience for me, since I had started at age 4 with her deceased husband's work being the guide for my introduction to dreams and dream work. So that said, the story that I have to bring here today to you begins 10 years ago when I was a Saybrook doctoral student with Stanley Krippner, and I was in that program to study dreams and creativity and the link between the two. And Stanley suggested that I join the International Association for the Study of Dreams, so the IASD, and you'll hear me refer to that throughout this presentation. So in 2008, I gave a talk at the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library here in Ashland, Oregon, and a gentleman named Ed Kellogg, a dream researcher, lucid dream researcher, attended my presentation where I was talking about Sonoy-inspired dream work and my innovation of an architectural structure called Dreambridge to hold the work that I was working on with Stanley at Saybrook. So Ed was very moved by my presentation, and he said, "You have to meet Bob Van de Castle." Now, Bob Van de Castle, he introduced me to through the internet, and then we ended up having a 3-hour phone conversation. And Bob Van de Castle was the author of Our Dreaming Mind, which is still considered a classic text for the subject of dream studies. And he's also famous for being the Prince of Percipience from Maimonedes, the work that Stanley and Montague Ullman were doing in Brooklyn at Maimonedes. So he was very, well known for that as well. So we connected about community and dreams and dream work and all of that. All of our work, we just had so much to talk about. So 3 hours on the phone there. Now, what follows and what I'm going to explain to you about what happened here, I just want to be clear in the forefront that unlike Stanley Krippner and Montague Ullman's work at Maimonides, these were not tightly controlled laboratory studies. Okay, so I'll explain more about that as I go along. So 2009 was my first IASD conference that I attended, and that was in Chicago. And I met Bob there and his partner, Bobby Ann, who we just refer to as Bobby, so there's Bob and Bobby. And at that conference, because of my lucid dreaming experience and all of the dream work I had been doing my whole life, Bob asked me to be the sender or agent for the dream telepathy contest. So that's why I have as a subtitle there, My Life as a Not So Secret Agent, because, well, you'll see why. So a little background on the contests. The IASD was founded as an organization in 1983, and in 1985, Bob Van de Castle hosted the conference in Virginia, and he decided, wouldn't it be great to initiate an informal dream telepathy contest to stimulate curiosity about the potential existence of psi dreams through personal participation in a comfortable setting that everyone, could just explore the possibility together. So the casual testing format has varied over the years. It's a little different from year to year, but the main elements are loosely based on the sleep lab protocols at Maimonedes. So back to the conference. So I'm at this wonderful conference in 2009 in Chicago, and I'm meeting all these wonderful people, and it's very stimulating, and the workshops and the presentations are great. Bob's partner, Bobby Ann, had selected 4 potential targets and put them each in a sealed envelope. Now, Richard, I'm not going to go over exactly what I'm talking about because I imagine you all have had a presentation from Stanley Krippner and the work.
Yes, we have, and we've been told about the Prince of Percipients and all of that. I'm happy that you were working with him, actually.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So the night of the contest, the way it worked is the contestants all gathered in person, and a presentation was made online as well for the receivers or percipients who were not there. Bob introduced me and I said some words to the group, and I shuffled the envelopes and chose one. Now, to facilitate a more personal connection between the contestants and myself, I agreed to meet with them, which is sometimes what they would do, I was told. So they lined up, so they could say hello to me one by one, give me a personal handshake or a hug if it felt right. And so people are doing this, and one by one, some of them would bow to me and say namaste, or they'd give me a hug, or, this one woman asked me if she could touch my boots. That was the most interesting one. But apparently my boots spoke to her because I had had a lot of adventures in them and she wanted to just touch them. So that was fine. And then I went off to my hotel room, and it was time to look at what was in the envelope. So this was the target image. Can you see that? Richard, is it?
Right.
Okay, so it was a night launch of the NASA space shuttle, just starting to launch with the fire underneath, smoke everywhere, right? So my sending process in my hotel room, Bob had suggested to not just think about sending it, but to actually physicalize it, act it out. And I thought that was so funny when I looked at this image because it's a space shuttle launching. So I'm jumping up and down in my hotel room. And that got old pretty fast. So I decided to try sitting on my bed and meditating and sending the image through my meditation to all of the percipients. And it's a habit of mine to keep my dream journal on the bed or next to the bed. So it's, I've got a pen and paper there. So even if I'm half asleep, I can just roll over and scribble, okay? Now, mind you, no one had asked me to write my dreams down. That wasn't part of the protocol. I was simply asked to send, all right? But organically, what happened was I went from the meditation right into a lucid dream. And the first dream that I had was, after shooting into the sky, I swirl around with all the contestants. They are full of love, and we sing of the dream movement and how it is going to literally save the earth. We have a big party in space. I feel so at home with my like-minded dream family. I feel honored and excited to ... dream more. Okay, so at that point, I roll over and I scribble that down. Then I went back into the meditation to send the image and into another lucid dream. And this happened a total of 8 times. So they're all very, very short dreams, just like that. So I'm going to read them to you in the sequence. So the second dream I had, and these are all lucid. People from all over the world show up like red lights on the earth. and one by one they shoot up in their own rocket to join us for the party. They are curious and want to be with us. 3, I see IASD member and IASD member shoot up in their rockets for the party. Everyone floats and has their rocket parked in the designated parking lot. Another IASD member and I dance and practice martial arts moves. It's fun. Soon there is a big orgasmic space orgy. People are completely wild, naked, and uninhibited, then peaceful and cozy. We curl up in bunches to watch dream-themed movies in space. 4, IASD member directs all incoming traffic to the rocket parking lot. It reminds me of the old Renaissance Fair in Novato, California in configuration, but floating on a space plane. 5, a flying disc arrives and out steps an alien, but his clothes are very familiar. He takes off his mask, and it's Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson had just died the day before in waking life. With green light on his face, he dances all over space. We're all happy to see that he's still dancing in his afterlife, and apparently he's much happier with his younger, healthier, drug-free body. 6, we're all hanging out now at a 1950s style space diner, still floating in the same place. 7, I ask everyone to drive their rockets back to Earth. It's morning now, and I check in to be sure we are okay to drive. Everyone rides back to Earth where it is daytime, and IASD member is leading a gardening project on an IASD plot of land. 8, my daughter and a boy she likes go to get in a car with a group of friends to go to a Renaissance fair. They leave from the DMV. Now this last dream makes me feel more grounded, like I'm back to Earth, because it reflects something more from my day-to-day life. All right, so what was different about my contribution in this contest is that not only did I send, but now we had all this data, my lucid dream reports, to compare to the dream reports of the recipients. And there were many correspondences between my dreams and theirs, which was delightful to Bob Vandecastle. Of course, he was through the roof. So the results were published in Larry Dossey's Explore, the Journal of Science and Healing. This was our first place winner, Reaching for New Galaxies. And this woman, she drew a silver structure like welded together like steel beams, reaching for the galaxy. And she wrote, I dreamt this image, then fell back to sleep. Later on, I dreamt that I was explaining to a man a dream I had where I was pulled up into outer space, into the blackness. Someone else had this dream experience too, a male. I wasn't afraid. It was a bit like flying, even though I felt pulled. But there was another surprising entry from Marie Maltese, and she entitled her dream, The Rocket Explosion. This is how she described it. I find myself with a group of people I don't know in a grass field in the middle of nowhere. We are there to see the launch of a space shuttle at night. We witness the lifting off. It is very impressive. I see the shuttle in space, the fire very clearly. Then I intuitively know the shuttle's going to explode. We have to run away from it to save our lives because the pieces are going to fall down and the fire will burn us. My life is threatened and I'm afraid. But what's really fascinating about this entry, and the reason why she didn't win, is that strictly this was a dream telepathy contest, not a precognitive dream contest. And this dream she had journaled 4 days before I actually sent it. Mm-hmm. So that was something that, again, Bob Vandecastle went, wait a minute, there's a lot more going on here.